And a very good morning, everybody, and welcome into another edition of the Pattison Sports Show. I'm your host, James. Excuse me, I'm your host, James Scorza, with you, and with me, as always, is a group of companions on this very important Saturday. Joey Marks, how are you doing, my friend? Good to see you. Happy Saturday.
It's one of those days where you get choked up, James. Happy Saturday, Philadelphia.
Yeah, I feel
Let's
like I got
get
a
it
frog in
going.
my throat. Yeah,
Yeah,
and join us once again is Mitch Kofsky from the Hardcore Sports Network. How you doing, Mitch?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. Ready to talk anything but the Sixers. I'm doing good.
Yeah, right. As do I. And join us today for the first time as a Pass and Av show, and also the debut um, of This Week in Phillies Baseball that started this week. He is a contributor to, like I said, This Week in Phillies Baseball. Mark Baker joins us here today. Mark, how you doing, man? Good to see you.
I'm doing all right. Watching that Phillies game last night, I'll tell you, the bullpen seems a little bit more stable. I like to see
Yeah,
that.
yeah, right. So we got a lot to get to on this Saturday morning. First, we'll talk about the Eagles draft review and Howie Roseman being a wizard and everything about that included, like even Joey alluded to on the topic sheet, and even the Phillies six-man rotation could be in the works too. But Joe, we got a busy Saturday now ahead of us. So simply put, where do we begin?
well, first, I wanted to make an announcement, and this person that's on this show right now on this panel does not know about this announcement. So I
Oh,
wanted to surprise him.
Hmm.
So I wanted to officially indoctrinate Mitch Kofsky to the Pattison Ave family. You have been on this show a couple different times. You gave us
okay.
life. You are now officially a Pattison Ave, uh, a, basically a Pattison Ave sports show family member,
Mm-hmm.
basically.
Awesome.
I wanted to welcome you in officially. Look, you've been on this show. You've given a lot of good contributions, and we just look forward to more working with you more and more going forward.
As
Hey,
do I. As do I, my friend. So welcome to the family, my brother.
appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. And you guys have been helping me with my show, Fly Like an Eagle and Steampunk Sports PA.
Yeah.
So happy.
So
Appreciate it.
let's get down to the Philadelphia Eagles. And like I said on the Facebook post, I don't know if Howie Roseman went to Hogwarts and he's a wizard, but he's got to be doing something because there are some things that I reviewed upon looking at both the draft class that he picked up in the draft and the undrafted free agents. We'll get to those in a little bit. But right now, what I want to do is I don't want to break down each individual player because I think that's been done to death by now. What I
Yeah.
want to do is basically give you guys three selections, and I want you to tell me which one of the three selections you think is going to have the biggest impact on this upcoming Eagles season. I'm going to start with the first three. You got uh, Campbell, you got Nakubu, uh, Andrew Nkobo, and then you have Trey Williams,
Mm-hmm.
Ty Robinson. I'm sorry, Ty
Yeah,
Robinson.
Robinson, yeah. I'm
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
looking at it right now.
so
Yeah.
Ty Robinson. So, out of those three, which one do you think is going to have the biggest impact on the Eagles season in the upcoming 2025-26 season? I'm going to start with you, Mitch, and take it away.
All right. So for me, it's going to be round two, pick 64, Andrew McCobo from Texas, the safety, because Garner Johnson is gone. He got traded to Houston, just to get him off the books, and his he definitely can start right away.
Mm-hmm.
McCobo is that guy, and I'm looking forward to see what he can do for that secondary next to Reed Blankenship. So for me, it's going to be McCoba.
Mm-hmm.
Andrew Makoba. There we go.
Mark, what do you think?
Although I do agree with Mitch, I will say I do like Ty Robinson. Uh, with the loss of Milton Williams and Josh Sweat, yeah, we did pick up the option for Jordan Davis. However, we may need depth in our our defensive line, and also we picked up the fifth option, but let's say, for instance, Jordan Davis has a down year. Like
Mm-hmm.
he had a good year last year, and he looked a lot more quicker. He looked a lot more fast. Let's say he has a down year. We need depth because Jalen Carter, if not yet, he's probably the best defensive tackle in the league. If not right now, it'll probably be at the end of the season. He's going to
Mm-hmm.
get double teamed. So who's really going to step up? Right now, I would say Jordan Davis can fill that role, but we need depth because that Milton Williams loss. I don't think it will kill us, but I think we'll feel the effects of it. So I think a young defensive tackle coming in might it might help solidify us a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
James, who do you think out of those three? Who do you think is going to make the biggest impact on this team come in the upcoming season?
It's a good question. The thing I take out of it is, I really do like the Jihad Campbell pick a lot because he's a good player that they have. But the two players that Mitch and even Mark even alluded to, I think was like it's a good process too. But if I have to pick one, um, I gotta go with Jihad Campbell because I think Jihad Campbell. There's like no such thing as what do you call it, Fangio, having too many players on that defensive line like he had with Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, and the list goes on about that too. So obviously he wasn't a reach. He wasn't a player that wasn't a reach. So the thing about it too is that could be something to look forward to what they have in store too. So, if I had to pick one, I have to go with probably John Campbell. We got a comment here. Marina Sands checks in and says Ojomo and Booker took Williams' spot. Davis cannot play. Can't play. Hashtag tech. Oh, he is an. Oh, okay. He's a okay. So
A
she
nose
says
tackle, I guess.
nose tackle. I guess. Yeah. So yeah, if I had to pick one, Joe, I gotta go with Jihad Campbell because apparently he wasn't a reach, but at the same time he's gonna probably be one step from being really good too.
So I would choose Makobo, Drew Makobo, because the way that I see it, similar to Mitch, losing CJGJ definitely stings,
Mm-hmm.
and having someone like Sidney Brown back there, it's not relieving to me, and like we could sit
Right.
there and say that having someone like Cooper DeJean and other people in the secondary is going to make up for that, but I think you need to have somewhat of a stalwart back there, someone to build around. And you got to think about this. Reed Blankenship
Oh,
is one that's a stalwart that we can rely on, at least for now. I'm not saying he's a Pro Bowler or an All Star, but like I think he's a stalwart as far as he's the starter on that other side, that other safety side. But you need to have someone that can build with him. Similar to how Baltimore has Hamilton and now has Malachi Starks.
mm-hmm.
They shored up their safety position for the foreseeable next 10 years. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like this pick is going to do the same thing. It may not do it to the same level as the Ravens have done it, but it's doing it for the Eagles where they can at least say, okay, we're shoring up these defensive positions where we're not dedicating a whole bunch of money like we've dedicated to the offense. So it's bringing in talent without diminishing the depth. So the next three I want to give you guys are McMillan, uh, Mondon, the linebacker Mondon,
From Georgia,
and
right?
then what's that?
No, I'm sorry. The player that we that I trampled on his name yesterday, from Georgia, right? That
Yep.
player. Okay.
Yeah, and
Merrill
then
Mondon. Yep.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then Kendall, the center, I believe he's from your favorite team, Mitch, Michigan,
No, he's from
no,
Boston
Boston
College.
College.
Boston
AC.
College.
Yeah.
So, my question to you guys, out of those three,
Hmm.
which one do you think is going to have the biggest impact on this team for the next season?
Hmm. Uh, That's a good. I'm not sure
Oh,
actually.
Mitch,
got-
I'll start with you, Mark. Which one? The center from Boston College, another linebacker from Georgia, and then the guy, McMillan, the cornerback.
I
Which
got to
one
go
do
with
you?
Drew Kendall, partially because one, I think the Eagles have similar to how the Packers have done it. I mean, the Packers are very good at developing the offensive line, and I really think the Eagles are up there as well. With Jason Kelsey retiring, Cam Jurgens, Landon Dickerson, those guys have been fine. I'm fascinated by this Drew Kendall pick because I want to see how well really the Eagles can develop offensive line because I think they're pretty good at it. I think that's been what they've been. That's been their bread and butter for the past like 5 years, maybe even longer. But with Jason Kelsey retiring, it doesn't really seem like they really missed a beat.
What about you, Mitch? Which one of those three do you think you would pick?
I'm going with the cornerback out of Central Florida, McWilliams, just for the fact that Slay is gone and that number 2 spot is open for grabs. It's open, and the cornerback room is very, very tough. The competition is one of the best throughout the entire offseason. So McWilliams can make his mark. He can make his mark if he gets to that spot. But we have to wait and see. And you also have Cooper DeJean, and you have other cornerbacks there. So can't wait to see him get to work. So I'm going to go with McWilliams.
James, who would you pick?
Yeah. Before I make my selection, basically, Marina Sands checks in again and says, McWilliams, excuse me, that's a tongue twister if you really think about it. McWilliams was drafted to be the backup slot as cornerback. Madone, huge upgrade over Trotter, Kendall practice squad, unless he can train as a guard, kind of like Stoutland University again in a way. I'm in the same boat as Mitch. I think I got to go with McWilliams on this one because you think about the players that you lost in the secondary with like Avante Maddox, even Slay, even like even Isaiah Rogers too. So the list goes on and on about that too. And you can't have too many. You can't have too many. I mean, there's no such thing as many players on this team that like on that secondary that you need. I mean, because right now I think the secondary will be huge just as much as like I mentioned with Jahad Campbell being a part of that defensive line or linebacker core too. So we got a couple more comments here. This is Butterfly. Good morning. Thanks a lot for chiming in. Says 7 likes already, so that's a good start.
There we go.
So she says good morning to us as well. And then Marina checks in again and says Madone could be a starter at inside linebacker if Campbell is not ready, depending on a situation like that too. So that makes a lot of sense too, Joe.
So I'm actually going to go probably with the least popular. I'm going to go with the center, Kendall. There was another guy that most of us might remember who is a fifth, sixth, third day selection at center that was highly overlooked and underrated and ended up being a pretty good player and could potentially go to the Hall of Fame. His name, Jason Kelsey. This is a guy that I feel like Kendall, and I feel like as much as we think Jason Kelsey isn't in the building, Statland still has Jason Kelsey's phone number. This is a guy, in my mind, Jason Kelsey has fingerprints on just as much to do with the offensive line as Jeff Statland does. I'm not saying that he's got influence over Howie. I'm not saying he's got influence over Jeff Statland. I'm saying that Jeff trusts Jason's outlook on things. And if you got to think, if Jeff Statland, possibly Jason Kelsey, but more to the point, someone like Howie Roseman had confidence in bringing in this guy as a backup. Now he's not going to be he's not going to be the starter, but as it is currently on the depth chart, we don't have a backup center. Like we have guys that are guards that can be converted, like a Landon Dickerson, but you don't want to move. You don't want to get into a bind like you did at the end of last season, where
Mhm.
Cam got hurt and Landon was playing hurt, and Landon had to step in for Cam. Towards the beginning of that game. So now you have a backup that you can teach, you can groom. So for that commenter that believes that Kendall's just going to probably end up on the practice squad, I don't think so. I feel like he's going to be the backup to Jurgens, and I feel like he's going to learn. He's going to be like the Jordan Mailata. He's going to be the guy that I feel like can be 2 or 3 years in the Jeff Statland University and really grow as a player. Um,
Yeah, I agree, Joe. I completely agree.
so um, so the next two I want to ask about are Kyle McCord and Miles Hitton, the
Yeah.
tackle picked in the 6th round. I got to ask, do you think either of these two players will make the regular 53-man roster? Mitch, I'll start with you.
Sadly, my missing guy, I don't see him making the 53-man roster because our offensive line is so deep. And then with Stalin University, a lot of people are going to get their time, but he wasn't really the biggest contributor at Michigan, so I don't see him making it the roster. I don't see it. And Kyle McCord, I just think he's just there. I just think they just drafted him just to be like, you know what? We're going to take him. Because I remember back when Shedeur Sanders was falling, the Browns traded above us to take Shedeur. And there were rumors that the Eagles were going to take Shedeur. So,
Mhm.
yeah, Kyle McCord, he might as like a practice squad guy, but nah.
I,
We already got our quarterback.
I'll put it this way: with Kyle McCord, the thing that worries me is that the rumor mill that has been about whether we're going to trade Tanner McKee or not.
Yeah.
That draft selection makes me feel more and more like they're more possible for trading Tanner McKee. However, the problem that I have with McCord is he's basically like Tanner McKee. He's a statue. He's not athletic at all. I mean, there was a report that came out that he had one of the worst rushing stats for a starting quarterback coming out of the FBS coming into the draft. Now, if
Mhm.
you look at the way that this offense is, you know, put together, it's put together for an athletic, very mobile quarterback. That is not who McCord is. I don't know if he's going to make the team.
Mhm.
I think that they're going to give him a flyer and they might put him on the practice squad, but I think he might become a Mike Kafka. Honestly, I think he might just be like that
That's
perennial
that's a
third
good.
string uh, quarterback. But Mark,
That's
what's your
true.
outlook? McCord or the tackle from Michigan?
I'd probably say the tackle for Michigan is likely not to make the roster. I mean, I don't see it with Thompson Robinson. I don't see what really the hype is. Um, I get that he's mobile. I I I see more McCord as, he's the backup, and maybe he can have a type of a Matt Flynn situation where he comes in late in the season. We already have the division wrapped up, plays really well, and who like a team like like a team like Indy, that's someone who's really desperate for a quarterback, says, we kind of want that guy, uh, and I think it's just a way for Howie to set up something in the background. I mean, who knows? I mean, he may never play a down. I just don't see what the market is for Tanner McKee. And I'm not really sure if Thompson Robinson is. I heard a report that they may actually cut him.
Yep.
So I'm not sure.
I mean,
Yeah.
here's my thing. So regardless if they cut Robinson or if they trade McKee, and outside, you bring up about the market with Tanner McKee. Outside of New Orleans, I don't see there being a market really, because there's
Right.
not a lot of other coordinators or coaches or organizations that are as familiar with Tanner McKee. Kellen Moore is. So there is a part of that where Kellen Moore could have an affinity, especially in the position that he might be in. That division is going to be a dogfight in the South. And
Yeah.
so as things get closer, if they have injuries on the quarterback front, they already do. But if they have persisting injuries on the quarterback front, they might get desperate. And I think that is something that maybe someone like Howie Roseman is betting on. James, who do you think's more
Excuse
likely
me.
to make the roster?
Not make the roster or
Make the roster.
oh hmm. Well, I guess I gotta go with McCord because if you think about it now, I think probably the reason why I think McCord is because I think it's probably like there's like you guys even allude to with Dorian Thompson Robinson. I think the thing is I think the thing that for the Eagles, I mean, obviously, I think it's Tanner McKee's job, obviously, as the second string. And I guess McCord will be the third stringer, depending on what they do with DTR, obviously. So, yeah, I guess for me, that will be the most important thing to talk about it too. Is that the thing with McCord? I think he's going to probably, if he does make the team, he'll be the third stringer. Obviously, Hurts is going to be that starting quarterback, and then McKee being the second stringer, and I think McCord will be the third stringer too.
Okay, so the last two, the Cameron Williams, and then who's the tackle, and then APR. Oh, I'm just going to use it with that because you started that last night, Mitch. APR at outside linebacker. Which one of those do you think possibly makes this 53-man roster? I'll start with you, Mark.
I mean, I would say I'd probably say the outside linebacker. We could always use more depth in our and I was a little concerned. I mean, you see a guy like Nakobe Dean is very talented. A guy like that gets hurt, that young in his career. It does worry me a little bit. Will he make the roster? He might not even make the roster, but I don't think it really hurts to have more depth at the linebacker position because one, I mean, some we don't know if Jahad Campbell's going to be ready. He came off of a torn labrum. Nakobe Dean was, I think he tore his ACL.
Yes.
So I don't think it hurts to have more depth at linebacker. And who knows? I mean, if this guy becomes a special teamer, great. I don't think that I don't think we can be short on linebackers.
So Mitch, what do you think? Which one of these two do you think will probably make the 53-man roster?
I agree with Mark. It's going to be APR just for the fact that our linebackers has always been our weakest position. So then if you stack it, always get the depth in place, then you should be good. I mean, we do have Trotter, we do have Bond, we do have Campbell, and we do have like Nakobe Dean, who's still on the shelf, but you can't go wrong with outside linebacker. You can't. So,
Right.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. I guess I'm gonna go with the best position possible. I got to go with ATR too. I think I think he's one guy that for sure that you cannot no such thing as have too many linebackers because especially what you got with N'Kobe and obviously Bourne and the list goes on and on about that too. So the thing I guess the other thing too is that if you have like that many players on the linebacker core, I think it'll be a good thing. I think it'll be a good thing to do, especially like this, especially on the situation that they have at linebacker. So like I said, like no such thing as too many players. No such thing as too many linebackers, let alone players that are that like a Trotter and even like even Ben Van Sumeren too. But I think Van Sumeren will be the fullback in that situation too. So yeah, if I had to pick one and choose, I gotta go with ATR more than anything, Joe.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that for the most part, I think APR could be the guy because I think
Oh, APR. I said ATR. I'm sorry.
yeah.
Oh, good.
I think APR could be the best option because first off, like I said at Fly Like an Eagle last night, I've heard really good things about him, really good reports about his speed, his athleticism, and whatnot. And the one thing that I find more interesting, and it's something that was already said, having more depth on the linebacker position, regardless if it's interior or exterior linebackers. The one reason why that's important, you don't know if Jahad Campbell is going to be slow out of the blocks because of the pace of the game. That could be a factor. The fact that Jeremiah Trotter Jr. is still a little still a green prospect. So we still have to see him in full throat when it comes down to seeing what he's capable of.
Sure.
N'Kobe Dean is probably going to miss the first month or two of the season, as far as what reports are saying right now. And so you need some depth at that linebacker position, even if it's positional battles. And like I said earlier on Fly Like an Eagle last night, and I'll say again today, the thing that to watch out for is this preseason is going to be interesting because there are going to be a lot of positional battles. There are going to be guys fighting for jobs. And we're going to get to some more of those players that are going to be fighting for those jobs in a little bit. But right now, I want to stop and say thank you to a sponsor, my company, the Shopping Plaza on eBay. Mother's Day is coming up, James. And do you have something personalized or Mother's Day gift for your mom? Well, if you don't, we have the right place for it.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out if I got a commercial ad for that. Sorry. Oh,
Yeah,
here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Yeah, today's show is also sponsored by our friends over at the Shopping Plaza at eBay. So I gotta upgrade this one because it says a holiday season. Obviously, it's not holiday season. But speaking of Mother's Day, look no further than our friends over at the Shopping Plaza on eBay for all your not personalized holiday apparel needs. And when you're shopping for yourself or a loved one this Mother's Day, or a wide selection of customized items, and has something for everyone right now at the Shopping Plaza on eBay.com. But go ahead and scan that QR code at the bottom of your screen or visit them online today at theshoppingplaza.com, proud sponsor. And to everybody out there who's celebrating Mother's Day next weekend, I hopefully we'll be back for that show to talk about that more. To wish everybody a happy Mother's Day. And like I said, visit them online at shoppingplaza.com for more info.
All right. So let's move on to some of the undrafted free agents. And one of the things a couple of things stood out to me. Number one, I always kind of said it this way. Sometimes when you have star players on your team, you like to gain information about their teammates. Whether it's, especially if it's from a smaller school, not like an SEC where they're televised every week. Here's an easy trivia question.
Sure.
Where did Quinyon Mitchell, and I'll ask you, Mitch, where did Quinyon Mitchell come from? What school?
Oh my God! Why am I going blank?
This is your guy. I threw you a straight fastball down the middle of the plate.
Oh man!
All right, I pulled a Bryce Harper and whiffed.
Oh,
Toledo.
holy Toledo.
Yeah, holy Toledo. So the interesting thing about that, you had Quinyon Mitchell, and there's no argument or debate that Quinyon Mitchell stepped up in a big way for your Philadelphia Eagles this past season. So, with that being said, is there more people that he played with that we could bring in that might not give us the same level of talent, but it could be close? It could be good friends. Hey, we have a bunch of Georgia Bulldogs that were all teammates for a national championship run.
Yeah, I know,
We
right?
believe in Philadelphia about reuniting college teammates together.
Yeah.
Why not bring some Toledo Rockets to Philadelphia? It's not just a Bulldog nation. Sharing is caring, like I tell my 4-year-old daughter. So, this guy. So there was 2 undrafted free agents. Lance Dixon, linebacker out of Toledo, and Max Hook from Toledo, cornerback. So a little bit about Dixon. Dixon had 4 forced fumbles in this past season. He was one of the lead. He was a modified 6'2", 233 pounds. This is a guy who is a modified safety into a linebacker. We talked about Jeremiah Trotter Jr. earlier. Jeremiah Trotter Jr. was also a modified safety into a linebacker. He's also around that 230, 240 build. This is another guy, maybe not to the ilk that Jahad Campbell is, but he is another quality linebacker depth piece that's going to fight for a job and has some familiarity with someone like Quinyon Mitchell, who could possibly help him get up to speed quicker on the defensive playbook. You have another guy, and a guy that I believe Quinyon Mitchell played right next to, and Max Hook as a DB, who was 4th in interceptions, I believe, in the MAC. And so this is the guy that, if you're going to go Quinyon Mitchell light, this might be the guy. This is a guy that isn't the most, menacing of presence at 5'11". This is a guy that also can be menacing as far as reading the ball. He has pass deflections for days. This is a guy that is a disruptor. So out of Max Hook and this outside linebacker from Toledo, which one of these guys is going to make the team? Lance Dixon or Max Hook? Mitch, I'll start with you, considering this is your guy's school.
Oh man, why couldn't this been a Flyers question? Because I'm about to win Rookie of the Year over there. But I'm gonna go with him. This is tough because our defense is very, very deep. So for me, is it a possibility for neither to make the team? Because I think that's where I'm going with. I'm going with neither. I'm going with none.
Yeah, Marina says the same thing. She says neither too.
What do you think, Mark? Do you think either make it to the team?
The more likely is, I would say, Dixon. The reality is, especially in the NFL, they're really the cornerback is constantly a carousel. There are very few shutdown guys in the league. We hit the jackpot last year with DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell. Eventually we'll have to make a decision on, who will likely need to, keep around. I think with DeJean's had such a unique skill set and such a unique athlete. There's so much that he can do. Quinyon Mitchell is he reminds me a little bit of Josh Norman. He reminds me of that, that in your face type of at times at his best as a shutdown corner. But the reality is we've seen that before, and that can be duplicated. And also the reality is with this, some of our line, some of Nakobe Dean coming back from injury, Jahad Campbell coming back, losing some guys in free agents, some young guys have to step up. The question is like, is the defensive line going to be as dominant as it was last year? And that's obviously a really good friend to a defensive backfield. I mean, you hope that you hit long term on two corners. The reality is you'll probably in a couple years really have just the one, and I would say it's likely going to be DeJean. And that being said, it kind of opens the door for a guy that may possess a similar skill set. You're not saying Quinyon Mitchell might be great. He might be a Hall of Famer. Who knows, right? But I mean, corner is such a carousel that you just don't know.
It makes me wonder, and I'll say this too, and James, I'll kind of shoot this towards you.
Sure.
With that notion of the carousel of these cornerbacks, especially when you start the preseason, we're not going to see Quinyon and Coop probably a lot in the preseason. We're probably going to see a lot of these guys because, as I'm going to kind of say as an overview, the rest of some of the the undrafted free agents, there was a lot of defensive backs. There was one from Texas and one from Oregon, and both Texas and Oregon. Texas A&M and Oregon, and both Texas A&M and Oregon had good defenses. So you're talking about the Eagles drafting either guys that their current players are familiar with, or guys that play at a high caliber in a high caliber conference. So my question to you is, does this make you concerned for someone like Kelee Ringo to still hold on to a job? Because let's face it, in preseason, Kelee Ringo might get a look at CB1, especially if Quinyon and Cooper aren't playing for a preseason game or two. So does this put more pressure on Kelee to hold on to the job, because it's going to be important?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think the other thing that really sticks out to me the most is that like this could be the last shot that Kelee Ringo has. Because especially with all the players they got in, like McWilliams, and also the other players about that too. So I guess the other thing that sticks out to me is that even I think the craziest part about it, I want him. I want to see him do well. I want to see him success. I want to see him to have some level of success. But in a way, it's just that sometimes yeah, Kelee Ringo hasn't lived up to the hype. I thought sometimes he played good but he didn't play well. But I think for me, if there's a player there that is going to be like better at that competition, that's probably what that's what preseason games are all about, to see what you have with your depth and all that. So that's the most important thing. So the question is that do they keep Kelee Ringo, or do they keep like Eli, like even like Marina brought up, like Eli Ricks and stuff too. So even Nooms for 9 checks in and says but Ringo is a special teams dude, and he stays for that reason too. That's how good he is on that special teams. So I guess you can keep him on the special teams, but I don't think he'll be a player to. Like I said, I don't know. I'm not entirely sure.
This is the thing. Is I don't disagree with the special teams thing, but James, you've seen this game, and we've all seen this game for a long time. These guys, especially when you start to go to like the third and fourth string guys, like they start to kind of get put on the hot seat when these young Thundercats kind of come in and play out their mind. And there are some guys that are coming in from this undrafted free agent class that are not going to want to just, be turned away. And I feel like some of them definitely have special teams ability, and I think it's going to be a war, which is why I think the preseason is going to be such an interesting. I usually pay attention to the preseason for the Eagles, but in recent years, I've paid attention a little less because there hasn't been as much of these positional battles. So it's going to be interesting to see really what the positional battles really, how they shake out.
Mhm.
Before we move on to the Phillies, there's one other person I want to talk about as an undrafted free agent, and it was another offensive lineman. Holland Pierce Rutgers, offensive lineman. Now, I said last night, James and Mitch,
Mhm.
that I like big guys. Like when I played Madden and me and my buddy were looking for D tackles, it goes the same. We look for the fattest dude out there. We don't always look for the most skilled guy. I'm sorry to spoiler alert, you go and get the guy that's going to clog the line.
Mhm.
The same holds true for offensive linemen, but you just don't want to get just a fat guy that can't move. You
Mhm.
want a guy that looks like a bear, like a out and out alpha. This guy, Holland Pierce, out of Rutgers, right out of our backyard, was all Big Ten. And this is a guy who's 6'8", 341 pounds. This guy is Jordan Mailata heir apparent.
Yeah.
This is a guy that I feel like could maul. And we talked about this earlier with Trey Robinson. The idea that the Big Ten, they're a bunch of maulers up front.
Mhm.
This, whether you're on the defensive side of the ball or the offensive side of the ball, it's true. And
Mhm.
this is a guy that possibly had to go against someone like him. It's going to be interesting to see how this pans out. I know we talked about the other 6th-round pick tackles and think that they might not make the team. This could be a guy that size alone might punch his ticket to the team. Mitch, what do you think about this guy? 6'8", 341.
That's a big boy. That's a
Yeah.
big guy. Knowing Howie, he always likes to get guys deep in the draft and have Jeff Stoutland like develop them. I mean,
Mhm.
same thing with Jordan Mailata, right? The guy played rugby for Christ's sake. So I'm just saying, like what Noom says here, a fellow Michigan fan. Shout out to you.
Mhm.
If Holland Pierce can get lighter on the feet, you have a decent Mailata backup.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's a fact.
Mark, what do you think? 6'8", 341.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree. I definitely agree about the footwork, but I will say this is that one, I mean, going to Rutgers. I mean, I know Rutgers very bad. For bottom of the Big Ten. I look at going up against Michigan, Ohio State. That matters. I mean, you're going up against guys that are in the pros, and that's where some of these guys coming in up undrafted have a little bit more of an edge on some of the smaller schools guys, because you're already used to seeing how dominant Michigan is up front, how dominant Ohio State is up front. Like you're already playing with guys
Yeah.
in the pros,
Mhm.
so I don't know if the guy's that far off, but I mean it's a possibility.
Look, there's a thing that is always said that me and my buddy used to say: you can't coach two things. You can't coach speed, and you can't coach God-given size. You just can't. You can coach up size. You can coach up. That's why I have the faith in Jordan Davis, and that's why we had the faith in Jordan Mailata. This is a guy in Jordan Mailata that had never played football, but had the size. So if there's an example, a prime example of Jeff Statland taking a mold of a player on the offensive line and turning him into a Pro Bowler, Jordan Mailata is the example.
Mhm.
James, what do you think about this guy?
Well, I mean, he's a tall dude. I mean, I'll tell you that much. He's like another guy. I guess another Jordan Mailata. Which, by the way, if he's another Mailata, and yet to groom him into like what he is, like how do you groom Mailata? I mean, I'm good with that. I'm perfectly fine with that. But overall, I mean, it was just. I mean, it'll be interesting to see how many of these depth pieces that they bring into the table to see what they look like. So that will be the most important thing. So if the Eagles know for sure, especially
I
when it
want
comes down to crunch time, I mean the depth there is also the biggest
Yes.
the biggest need more than anything. There's no such thing as too much depth on the team.
On the offensive line, especially because that is, the impact happens at the line. So I agree. And we talked about the defensive line. The offensive line is just as impactful of having depth. And so having these guys that have that kind of depth. I mean, in parting, I got to say this: 6'8", 340. When I saw this in his scouting report, my eyeballs like bulged out of my head. Like, okay, this is a guy I would pick. Like, just because here's the other notion. Jordan Mailata and Pierce walk into a bar, 2 6'8" towers. Yeah, if I'm a little 6'2" edge rusher looking at those two behemoths, you're going, yeah, I'm good. I'm good. You guys want a beer? You got, yeah. Let's go to the bar. Like, if I get them drunk enough, they'll fall over, right? Like that's the point, because the bigger they are, the harder they fall. Just as long as they don't fall on top of me. So there's that. Let's get to from undrafted and the draft class overall. I'm going to start with you, Mark. Give me your overall Howie Roseman grade of both the undrafted and drafted players that Howie Roseman has picked up in this rookie class.
I'd say I did a pretty good job. I'd give him about a B plus. This is a particularly weaker draft, and I think we'll see. A lot of this I think depends on Jahad Campbell coming back and coming off of a torn labrum. We'll see if he can provide some solid depth and maybe even be a starter. Considering what this draft was, I think it's another masterclass of Howie Roseman, but coming off of a Super Bowl win, there wasn't really a definitive need. Anything that we got met, we needed to get met, it got met. So I would say there were some deals in there. I also will say what the Eagles are particularly good at. So we traded away our 5th round pick to the Chargers, who drafted Oronde Gadsden. That was a selection the Chargers really needed. I think that's a good business deal for the Eagles. Get more picks, and that's what got us Kyle McCord and APR. I mean, those are quality. Nothing outstanding, but that's just a quality transaction. I mean, that is what I think the Eagles have become in the offseason. A team that desperately hones in on a player. Okay, we'll take a few more. We'll develop. Maybe they'll play. Maybe they won't play. The Eagles are particularly good at that. Where other organizations are just focused on, we got to get that. We got to get that player. Eagles are more focused on depth, and so I'd give them about a B plus.
Mitch, what would you grade Howie?
Well, first off, if you see his phone number, they're not picking up. I'm just letting you know, they're not picking up Howie Roseman's phone call. So I'm just going to throw that out there. And I agree, it's like a B plus. They just fill the holes that they needed to do, especially on the defensive side of the ball with the defensive end, linebacker, etc., safety to replace Garner Johnson. It's a regular calm draft, B plus.
James?
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Scott. I'm right there with you. So I think it's a B plus for me too, because you think about like this day and age of the draft, especially after winning a Super Bowl, can also go a long way too, because you think about like the depth pieces that you needed and all that too. But this is probably what it was more than anything. It was not like, I mean, yeah, the Jahad Campbells of the world and the Andrew McCobos and the Ty Robinsons too. So yeah, that was a big that was the home runs were like the first 2 days were like home runs, like from 1, 2, and 3 of the first, second, and third round picks. So that was the biggest, most important thing too. So for me, I gotta give it a B plus too, Joe.
Okay, so I'll be the homer.
Well, I was gonna say A plus, but
yeah.
I mean,
it's okay. I'll be the homer. I'll be the homer for this show.
Okay, Homer Simpson.
I give Howie Roseman an A, and this is why.
Hmm.
There's a couple
I
reasons.
should give him an A too because he did a really good job. Sorry, Joe.
There's a couple reasons why I do that. Number one, uh, it was very calculated. Mark mentioned this about the fifth round, but well before the fifth round, Howie was already making calculated moves with trading back. When there was a player that when the board didn't shake out the way that he wanted it to, or way he desired, he just said, okay, I'd rather trade back and get more picks and take more quantity versus quality. And I know people might say, well, then if there's not as much quality, then shouldn't you grade them lower? Not if you're talking about equity. There's 13 picks for the Eagles next year. The equity in which he's not going to make 13 selections, and damn sure he's not going to. He had 7 selections this year. He expanded that to 10. Like the idea that he expands the draft and that he doesn't sleep on undrafted free agents. The guy does his homework. He didn't just say, okay, I have this undrafted free agent. I'm going to pick him up out of Temple University. No offense, Temple alumni, but I'm going to pick this guy up, just random Temple University guy. Like, he still went to big schools, Oregon, Texas A&M. He went to Toledo, where he had a player currently on the roster that was familiar with some of those guys. He had guys from the Big Ten, Wake Forest. He had guys from Rutgers. These are guys that are maybe players that get put on the practice squad or get cut. This is true. But then they could be the next Jordan Ricks. They could be the guy that makes the team, or potentially could make the team, because of the way that they fight during preseason.
Mhm.
Preseason is a level playing field, and Howie Roseman just set the whole my entertainment on fire by saying, okay, preseason matters now, because you have to watch for these young Thundercats fighting for position. It's only going to make this team stronger, I believe. So I give Howie an A, not just for what he did for this draft. And Mark's right. This is a weaker draft class, but you didn't just overreach for the sake of overreaching in this draft class. You saw this draft class for what it was. And now you gave yourself, by trading back in a calculated way, more picks for a potential draft class next year that could garner you better talent. So for me, it's an A for Howie. But we're going to move on to the Philadelphia Phillies. But before we do, we want to talk about our great sponsors over at GameTime.co. If you want last-minute Phillies tickets at a high discounted rate, and you don't want to pay the standard cost for Phillies tickets, look, Phillies tickets nowadays, they're $50, $60 a pop for general admission. At GameTime.co, you can find your best seat. Tell them more about it, James.
Yeah, Joe. Today's show is sponsored by today's show is probably sponsored by our friends over at GameTime.co. Hang on a sec. There we go. GameTime.co. Calling all Phillies fans. Need tickets last minute? Don't worry. GameTime.co has got you covered for all your Phillies tickets. You can check out your seat view and buy and snag on great discounts and so much more at GameTime.co. But remember to scan that QR code at the bottom of your screen or visit them online at GameTime.co today. That's at GameTime.co today. And let's go, Phils.
James, I'm going to start with you. Go ahead.
We got a couple more comments here. So, NFL Reality Check says basically people are sleeping on Aziz Ojulari will be a big factor in that coming up in the training camp, and especially what's going to look like in the preseason. I mean, training camp in preseason. I mean, so no question how it took more input for existing staff and players. That was from Noom. Check that in. And he also says that he has more capital for a stronger draft. and also Josh Oche that is could be sneaky good too. I forgot we had Oche going back to when we got with the Patriots. But Joe, what were you saying?
And we also have a guy by the name of Cease, who's a safety that could be sneaky good that we got in a trade last year,
Hmm.
I believe from Minnesota.
Hmm.
And he's another SEC guy, I believe. So it's going to be interesting. I mean, there's a lot of depth. There's a lot of pieces that we haven't seen yet. And there's a lot of pieces that we just brought in. So it's a full room. And it's no one's giving up position. This is
Yeah.
going to be Spartacus. This is going to be battle lines.
Hmm.
And look, iron sharpens iron.
Hmm.
And look, I am looking forward. I'm already. I got goosebumps. I'm ready for OTAs and preseason.
Yeah.
Uh,
Me
but
too.
let's get into the Phillies. James, I'll start with you.
Hmm.
Ranger Suarez has been taken off the IL and now will be pitching. I believe the last report that I heard was Tuesday.
I thought it
I,
was tomorrow. I thought it
I,
was like.
it could be tomorrow. I could be mistaken, but he'll be pitching. And with that, the immortal question remains:
Mhm.
does Walker take the walk to the bullpen, or does Ranger swing in like the Lone Ranger to the bullpen? So, which would you send to the bullpen? Ranger Suarez or Taiwan Walker?
Hmm. I gotta go with Taiwan Walker. I think Taiwan Walker is a look. I mean, there's times Taiwan Walker looks like he actually knows how to like pitch a game, but the last game he pitched wasn't good. I thought he didn't play very well to the competition he did, but overall, if I had to pick one, I guess I gotta go with Taiwan Walker in the bullpen because I think Ranger Suarez looked very well in circumstances that he looked well in spring, not spring training. I meant in the minors, and also it looks like his back is not bothering him as much as it once was. So that's a positive going into if he either pitches tomorrow or maybe Tuesday, like you even alluded to, Joe. Um, yeah, I mean, if I had to pick one and choose, I gotta say, okay, I think it'll be Ranger to be the fifth starter and Walker designated to the bullpen.
So, Mark, I will ask you the same question, but I'll add this as a caveat. The conversations of a potential six man rotation. Do you think that whether you move first, which one would you move, Walker or Ranger? And if you move neither, would you be able to convince someone like Zach Wheeler or the rest of your pitching rotation that you're going to do something unheard of, which is a six-man rotation? What do you say?
I mean, definitely from an ego standpoint, telling a guy that instead of pitching every 5 days, you may be pitching every 6 to 7 days. Um, I mean, certainly for the business of baseball, you want to have your big arms to be rested for the postseason. That being said, I mean, we are under a big contract with Aaron Nola. At this point, we got to see what we really have with that. I mean, the reality with Nola is that we've only scored just over a hair over two runs a game during his starts, and he's 0-5. I don't think it's been entirely bad, but also Walker 1-3, a hair over 2.5 for his ERA. Uh, a lot of this is tough. The Phillies offense has been a little bit stagnant at times, and so a lot of these numbers can be a little bit inflated. Um, I would say, just given the production of Ranger Suarez, you got to put him back in the rotation. Um, just simply from his, I just think he's a more dynamic than Taiwan Walker. I think he's fine. I think he's serviceable, but uh, you know, given where we've been the past 2 years, I would say it's very clear we got to bring Suarez.
So do you think? So you don't think it's a good idea Just so we're clear, so you don't think it's a good idea to have a 6-man rotation?
From the business side of it, yeah, I mean, I love it, because of course, at the end of the day, and this is the same with like the same thing with the NBA. It's like, we can talk about the regular season all we want, but at the end of the day, I want Zach Wheeler against the Dodgers. I want him going 7-8 strong against the Dodgers. I'm not really, I don't care too much about the Nationals, but that being said, it's that the guy wants to pitch. I want to make sure the guy's in rhythm. I want to make sure guys are in rhythm. You take maybe even 8 days off from a start. I mean, that affects a guy's like pitching circadian rhythm. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Mitch, what do you think? Who do you move? Same questions. Who do you move to the bullpen if you move any of them? What do you think of the 6-man rotation? But if you were to move one to the bullpen, which do you prefer, Tywin or Ranger?
That is really a tough one because we know how the bullpen is. So if we actually move one of them to there, is that actually going to help? That's my question. Is it actually going to help no matter what we do? So I'm going to agree with Mark here. I'm going to go with he said. I was going to say the same exact thing.
So this is where I kind of push back a little. And this is where what I say. So I think we put Ranger in the bullpen. And this is why. Because you don't want to push him too hard, too fast, too soon with a back injury. You want to bring him along gradually. That's number one. That's reason number one. Reason number two is I have no interest in continuing the business obligation with Tywin Walker for the remainder of the season. That being said, I have to put Tywin in a position where he can raise his trade stock as high as it possibly can go. So that way, my organization, from a business standpoint, can benefit the best from it. Because let's face it, in the beginning of this season, everyone wanted Tywin Walker gone, but there was a problem with that scenario. You couldn't trade Tywin Walker for what his production was. You couldn't trade him for a bag of donuts. You just couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as Mark alluded to, 1-3, but a sub 3 ERA, and this is a guy that is starting to look like he's getting some things together. That he's kind of getting himself together. That even if that's an illusion, I am not willing to gamble that that's an illusion for the remainder of the season. That guy might fall off a bridge. That talent, that luck that we're having. Every time you put Tywin Walker out there, you're gambling with whether or not he's going to give up 2 runs or 6 runs. And I honestly want Tywin Walker to make 3 to 4 more starts, and then I want to field offers. I want to hope that in the next 3 or 4 starts that Tywin Walker makes, that he raises his stock so much that it gets us a payback for having to deal with him for the last year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
This is a part where I feel like if it's a 6-man rotation and you put Tywin and Ranger out there, fine. But if I was the one choosing, I would leave Tywin out there because he's already adjusted to starting. And I would put Ranger in the bullpen and bring him in as a long man because it'll help his back and help build up the stamina so that way by the time September and October comes around, there's a potential, whether Painter's up here or not, that someone like Ranger has a longevity, that he could be the most effective. How is Ranger going to be more effective if he's pitching 4 innings and then in 3 games he's back on the IL with the sore back? You're back to the same problem you're at now.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather leave Tywin in the starting role, bring Ranger along slowly, and make sure Ranger's healthy for the long haul, and get the most equity that I can get back for Taiwan Walker.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody have any comments to that?
Well, I mean, we got a couple of them here since you brought it up here. So, Nooms for 9 checks in again. It says Taiwan Walker may be exactly what we need to get through a regular season, and he said maybe a spot appearance in the playoffs. So he's probably good. So I'll let you. I'll let you answer that, Joe, or anybody else.
Mitch, Mark, you guys have anything to add?
I just would say we have Ranger Suarez is under contract just for this year. I just like to see what we really have with them, because after this offseason, we're gonna really have to make some tough decisions. It's just better to know. It's just better to know we have a full sample size of performance before we decide, hey, this guy can still play. This guy is still formidable. Yeah, I agree that I think Taiwan Walker maybe in a postseason can maybe give us a start. Let's say we need a bullpen start here and there, but I'd like to just see what we got with Suarez under this 1-year deal.
Mm-hmm.
Mitch, what do you think?
Hang on, I think Mitch just. Oh, here we go.
I'm right here.
Sorry about that.
No, you're good. That was me. That was good. So what's up?
So, Ranger and the question was about Ranger and Taiwan Walker. The idea that Walker could make a potential playoff spot start, and Mark was alluding to the idea that we got to at least see what Ranger has as far as what's left in the tank. Now, my argument was I don't know if Taiwan should survive as a Philly for the remainder of the season. I think that if you raise his equity enough now, you sell him off, because yes, Ranger's going to be a free agent at the end of this year, but Andrew Painter is going to be the next one up, and I
Mm-hmm.
feel like if we're talking about the fifth starter for next season, I really don't know if I'm worried about Taiwan Walker or Ranger. But if I were to trade Taiwan Walker at his top value and get a serviceable piece or two for the foreseeable future, my question was, or the comment was, whether or not which would you rather have? Would you rather hold on to Taiwan and put him in the bullpen for a spot start in the playoffs, or uh, really kind of see what Ranger has, or trade Taiwan at the highest for the highest bidder?
Uh,
Nothing.
None.
You got,
You got
you
me,
got,
dude. You got me.
yeah, yeah. I won't know either, brother.
So, do you guys think that Taiwan Walker? I brought up about Taiwan Walker's trade value. Uh, do you guys believe that Taiwan Walker has the ability to be traded, and do you feel like his trade value has gone up since the beginning of the season? Mark, I'll go to you.
I think he has. I mean, if his ERA is under 3, I mean, it put on the spot with Ranger Suarez going out. Uh, I, I mean, I don't know if I would necessarily put him on the trading block, but I his value, he does have value. I mean, listen, when you have Wheeler's your number 1. Nola is a number 2. I mean, if you go around the league and you look at certain pitching staffs, I think we've got a pretty good pitching staff. One, I if considering like, Nola gets a lot of slack, and I think rightfully so. Uh, Rightfully so. It can be a little bit hit or miss, hot and cold, but
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at the very least, there's a lot of teams out there with starting pitching that they'd be lucky to have hot and cold. Um, so Taiwan Walker, I think, coming into a pitching staff that has been somewhat at times can be dominant, at times can be a little hit or miss. I think he's coming in done fine. I think his value is I think he's got pretty good value.
Mitch, do you think Taiwan has raised his trade stock? Tywin Walker. Okay. James, do you think Tywin Walker's raised his trade stock?
Uh, um.
Muted. I was muted.
Oh shit.
No,
Oh,
you're
did I
good.
mute you
I
by
muted
accident, buddy? I'm sorry,
I
man.
muted no, you're good. I just say give him a little more time. Let's see where the value goes from here. That's basically what I would do.
Yeah, as the why. Same here.
You guys think, speaking of trades, do you think now there was a name that Mark brought up that I think we all love sometimes? It's a love hate relationship with Aaron Nola.
Yeah,
There's been
speaking of Aaron Nola, he says he needs to do a better job at pitching the contact, so it's a good segue.
yeah. So here's my question: whether it's Aaron Nola, Taiwan Walker, or anybody else, Alec Baum, JT, whoever, is there one person you think that the Phillies should really contemplate trading before the trade deadline to make this team better, especially if they're trying to make a playoff run? Mark, James, I'll start with you.
Um, what was the question again? I'm sorry for like something about Aaron Nola's trade stock.
So with Aaron, with the talk of the trades with the Phillies,
Mm-hmm.
the idea of Taiwan Walker being on the trade block, the Mark
Oh,
brought
trade
up
block.
about
Oh,
Aaron Nola, but there have been other players that have struggled, Alec
yeah.
Baum and whatnot. Kyle Schwarber's on the last year of his contract. JT Umuto's on his last year of his contract. Is
Mm-hmm.
there any guy, any player that you think is glaring that stands out to you that, if traded by the trade deadline, would help this team move forward in their pursuit for a World Series championship?
Well, I don't think it'll be Noah. I don't think it will be the players that you even alluded to. So, if I have to pick one, I probably have to go with Taiwan Walker because you think about what Taiwan Walker he's like even Mark mentioned, like he's like hit and miss sometimes. Like sometimes he's like high and low, and at the same time he gets a little like it's like just 1 minute he looks great and the other minute he starts to struggle. So that'll be something to keep a close eye on too, especially when the time calls for it. But honestly, I don't mean I would love to see Nola do better. I would love to see Alec Bohm finally start to get back into a groove again. And Schwarber's been actually it's not even June yet, and he's been tearing it up too.
Yeah.
So that's the most important thing too. The other thing is that if the Philly, I mean, with JT though, I mean that's another guy that's a hit and miss too, because especially what he's been up to. Um, I'm not saying that JT. I mean, he's a great catcher, like on his defensive front, but his offensive front, he's just got to find a way to just get back into a groove again. And even Nooms had checked in and says, "I would rather much trade Turner if I could get out of that contract." But I'll say that for another day because I got a
I,
bone to pick with
I
trade too.
like here's my thing. So you're not going to get out of the Trey Turner contract. There's
Right?
some contracts you're just not going to get out of. And
Nope.
like Mark, you brought up and alluded to earlier about Aaron Nola and having signed him.
Right.
The idea that Aaron Nola could be tradable, I'm not sure if that's possible. I mean, yeah, you would have him under control for a while. I'm just not sure if the teams know, especially in this day and age, what pitcher they would be getting. So, Mark, you know, give me your grade of what you've seen. Aaron Nola's, 0-5. You brought up
Yeah.
his ERA and everything, but Mark,
Mm-hmm.
how how would you grade Aaron Nola's performance up to now?
I'd give him about a C. I see Aaron Nola with experience. It wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me in the next couple years he goes to, he's like a third or fourth starter for like the Dodgers.
Mm-hmm.
Dodgers see value in him and they throw him out there in like a game 4 of an NLCS. That wouldn't surprise me. He's definitely not the caliber in which we hope that he'd be. I mean, there is a massive gap between Wheeler and Nola, and that isn't a concern yet because Luzardo has done well. Walker has done okay, but there is a massive gap between Wheeler and Nola, and it's not hitting right now, but in the postseason that could potentially hurt us.
And I'll throw this to Mitch. Like Mitch, Nola coming off the rough starts to this season. My question then becomes, you know, whether he's tradable or not. My question is this a guy that we just have to wait for the warm weather to come around to really see the real Aaron Nola stand up? Because
Yeah.
I am waiting for the real Aaron Nola to stand up, especially, someone brought up about Trey Turner's contract. Signing Aaron Nola in the offseason and him starting out 0-5, and I agree with what Mark's grade. So for you, what would you grade Aaron Nola, and do you think he's going to come around?
I'll give the same grade as he did, but for me, it's like, how many times are we going to see this, right? It's time and time and time again, the same song and dance, right? We can't wait that much longer. We need results like now. The Phillies are dropping, and we know that their postseason within the last couple of years, Mark and I talked about this the other day, last week, um, it's just been like each round, like World Series, then the next round, then the next round, then the next round. It's like they're keep on going down. So how much longer do we have to wait?
Right.
So we need something like now. And if
Well,
we,
Yeah.
I will kind of chime right in with that. I'm going to keep rolling with you with this. So we do need the results now from Aaron Nola and from a lot of people. One of
Right.
the team captains, the stalwart of this team, the face of this team, is Bryce Harper. He's been in a slump lately. My question is, what do you do to get someone like Bryce out of this slump? And Willie, I mean, like that. You talk about Aaron Nola being a concern, and it's something we've seen time and time again. This isn't something we've seen from Bryce
Hmm.
over and over again. So, is this something to be concerned about?
Hmm.
I am not concerned about Bryce Harper because he's one of the top players in the league. I feel like he can snap out of it at any given moment, probably after around the All-Star break, give or take. So I can see him stepping it out then or breaking out then. So maybe a little bit more time, but other than that, we need results now.
James, what do you think? Is this concerning to you about Bryce Harper's slump? This guy's batting close to 230.
You know what's crazy? The craziest part about it is I talked about this in the off season. Um, the TikTok stuff was really driving me crazy with that stuff. Like even like Nooms brought up with the skin with the Mucal F milk, if you know what I mean, and also the skim milk that he had in store and all that kind of stuff. So I mean the other thing that drives me crazy about with Harper is that this is like something that is completely odd with Harper in this day and age. Because you think about what happened in 2022 when he was the guy that got this to the World Series at the Bedlam at the Bank, and the year after that he started to like become a first baseman and become something into his own. This is I mean I want to sound like I'm sounding weird here, but this is like very odd for Harper to struggle like this early on in this season. And everybody says Harper gets hot when the time calls for it. When he gets hot, he gets hot. But this is something that I never thought. I mean, I wouldn't say Harper was like Harper's like struggling a lot, that he's a bust and all that, and he's like getting like really and on the verge of like getting traded or anything like that. But the problem is I have with Harper is that the it's just really hard to talk about in this day and age now about what he's been doing.
Well, I mean, here's my thing is that with Harper, I feel like batting 230 for a guy that is like Mitch said, he's a top 100 player in this league, if not top 50 player in this league. Last year, he was up there in MVP votes. Like this is a guy who, when the time calls for it, the moment calls for it, he shows up, puts his cape on. But recently, it just feels like he's been kind of going through the motions.
Right.
And Mark, I'm going to ask you, what have been the things that have been alarming to you about Bryce Harper recently?
I don't know if I would necessarily be alarmed. I mean, the guy's 33.
Mhm.
He's not getting any more athletic. He's not getting any more nimble. He's only
Mhm.
getting older. Um, and I think there's listen. I think the slump he's in right now, I
Mhm.
think he'll get out of it. But I think that the longer term question is that the guy's getting older. Are we willing to really accept that, this is not going to be the player that we signed in 2019 that took us to the World Series in 2022? That, in 5 to 7 years, this guy might be, and an obviously better version of, like, let's say, Carlos Delgado, where it's like just hit the long ball, just hit the long
Right.
ball and be formidable at first base. Because you know it may not happen now, but I think this is a little bit of a preview for, because I mean, I'm not sure how many more years we're under contract with him, but when he's 37 years old, he's not going to be running like a deer anymore. I mean, maybe I
Right.
could be wrong, but I think the reality is that, like, this may be the player that we're looking at. And the question is, like, are we okay with that? Are we okay just with, decent first base, if decent first base, and hit the crap out of the baseball? I mean, like, are we okay with that kind of player?
Yeah, well, here's the thing. You can hit the crap. The second part of that is not something that's been happening lately. He has not been contacting the ball quite as often as he used to.
Mhm.
So, like, I could understand if he's batting 280
Mhm.
and he's just old and he's, making some fielding errors, or he's not as quick as he used to be. I can understand all that. I really can. But he's not batting 280. The fact of the matter is this is a guy that, you know, he's got to be the tone setter for this team. And I
Mhm.
think if his tone is that he's just going through the motions, I think that's indicative of how the other team, how the other players on the team are probably going about their business. And look, I want to be clear, and I want to kind of get everybody else's opinion on this too. But I want to be clear. I'm not sitting here, saying that the Phillies are done. Like that on May 3rd, the Phillies are done. They're not going to make the playoffs, all this. No.
Right. Right.
I said this, I think it was 2 weeks ago. The Phillies need to get to 90 to 92 wins to have a chance at the playoffs. That's what I think. I get that everyone says that the NL West is going to have all the wild card spots. I think that they're going to cannibalize each other at some point, and they're not all going to be able to hold true to being this tough division. I mean, the AL East was that way the beginning of last year, and that settled down. Uh, One of the things that I could really say is this: you get to 90 to 92 wins or more, and you have a chance. The Phillies got 16 wins on a bad month of April. We can
Right.
all come to a consensus that April was not the best month for the Phillies. Okay. But they still pulled off 16 wins. If you pull off 16 wins for 6 months, you're at about 96 wins. This is a team that I think even if they get to 95 or 96, they're in the playoffs. And that is playing bad baseball. That so my feeling is, yeah, it's like Mitch said, you have to rectify it. Because if you go May and you drop under that 16 win mark, we then start to worry about how much slack we have to pick up. I remember when Joe Girardi got fired, we were 7 games under 500. I don't want to wait to that moment then to hit the panic button. So for a guy like Aaron Nola, who's 0-5, a guy that like Bryce Harper, who is batting under 240, a guy like, Alec Baum that is hitting his helmet on the ground more than he's hitting the baseball. This is where I start to worry, but I still have faith that this team can, even if they play mediocre or bad like they did in April, that they still have a chance. Like a bad version of this Phillies is still better than most other good teams. my question to you guys to wrap up the show, and I'll start with you, James. Do you feel like this Phillies team, after everything you've seen up to this point,
Mm-hmm.
it still pace true to be a playoff team and a World Series contending team, despite some of the slumping players?
Well, it's always that saying is it's not how you start, it's how you finish. I guess that's the most top priority here because you think about the times when in 2022 when they got into the last game, got into the postseason that last week of the season. So that I mean, nothing's guaranteed, obviously. So if they start to struggle like this now, I think it's okay just to see them struggling. But at the same time, I mean, it will be interesting what they'll look like come like August, September, and October. Because the last year, like it only took them until that London series, and after that London series, they started to start to collapse a little bit, and that's going to be the most important thing in this. And I mean, yeah, sure, it's only May 3rd. We are in May, so I'm not going to press the panic button yet. But if they start to have a cause for concern, the thing about it too is just like if they start to play, and then also Harper's starting to struggle, and the whole team's starting to struggle, could be a long summer for the guys at Pinstripes.
That's why I brought up all these players: Tywin,
Yeah,
Ranger, Aaron, and Bryce,
yeah,
because that's a significant core of this team.
yeah,
And if one is struggling, we could get over it. But if all four are struggling in some way or shape or form, then this team may not do as well. Now, Mitch, I'll ask you the same question. Can this Phillies team kind of overcome some of these shortcomings that they've had in April and kind of still proceed forward with being a playoff contending team and a World Series possibly bound team?
Well, damn, I was about to say it, but it looks like Philly halftime in the chat took my idea. But
yeah,
I'm just
yeah,
going to say it right now. It's Rob Thompson. I don't
yeah,
feel like we're going to go anywhere with him as of right now because the last couple of years, like I said before, we came on going down, 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 down. And the decision that he's been making, it's been like, as to not, like, you guys know, you guys see it, you guys watch.
yeah,
And
yeah,
it's just like, why? And not just that, it's the hustle of these players as well. Like there's a couple ground balls that they see walk go right by. They don't do anything. It's like the movie Bandux Bears or Benchwarmers or
yeah.
something.
Right,
It's just like
right.
they're playing like that. So I'm just
Yeah,
like it's Rob Thompson and the hustle.
yeah.
Even Dave Dombrowski, I'll throw him in there as well. I'll throw him in there. You
Mark,
gotta go to the top of the management.
Mark, there's a lot of people that have been mentioned on this show that are on the hot seat, at least in some people's opinions. I will ask you, do you agree with any of the people that have been mentioned to be on the hot seat? And do you want to add to any of them?
I mean, I agree. I agree with Rob Tom. I agree with the Rob Thompson being on the hot seat. I mean, if you make the playoffs, if you make the playoffs again, and listen, the reality is the Mets have not won a division back to back. They won the World Series back in '86, and since then they have not they don't have consecutive division championships.
Well, we're the division champs.
We're the division champs, but at the end of the day, I don't trust the Mets are gonna the Mets are gonna make that leap. Um, the Mets have not shown in the past 40 years that they can put together back to back playoff. And right now they're leading the division. I would say probably 87 wins gets you to the playoffs. And if 87 wins gets you to the playoffs and possibly gets you the division, I mean, at that point it's hard to be like let's fire Rob Thompson. Because I think the Phillies have a logistical problem where it's, I think something you mentioned with Bryce Harper being the tone setter. Well, now you have a guy next year who'll be 34 years old, and you have a 34-year-old being your tone setter. Yet you're paying a shortstop over $300 million to do that role. That's also tough. You have an aging right fielder. You have a third baseman that I mean has a literally -1 WAR. Like you have a logistical problem that I don't necessarily think that's Rob Thompson's. I think Rob Thompson's been fine. I think the bull, obviously, his use of the bullpen, like Philly halftime mentioned, I agree with that. Uh, is a concern, but I think there's just a logistical problem with when you have an older team. This is what's going to happen.
So I agree with the Rob Thompson thing because there were two spots in the last couple games that I ended up yelling at the television or radio because I felt like the decisions that Rob Thompson made were not the greatest. I take one prime example of Mercado being up at the bottom of the ninth, being with the ability to be able to tie the game. This is a guy that's not in Mercado that Merchant that is not beating the leather off the ball. And I get the whole logic of you want to give JT a whole day off, but the game's on the line. Like you either bat somebody, and I mean, I would have even said this. You bat if you didn't want to bat JT, that's fine. It's the bottom of the ninth and you're home. So you go and you try to extend that inning. So you go and you get like someone like a Mundo Sosa who's been hitting the ball really well. And you put him up to bat and you see if he can extend the inning. And sure, if by chance you tie the game and you go into extras, yes, you have to break your promise and say to JT, you need to go suit up. I understand that. But like these are big boys. And as Mark has alluded to, these are guys that are older guys. These guys can take the news of, okay, I'm sorry, you have to play. I get that, in some regards, we denigrate the age. We play the ageism card in Philadelphia that this guy's 34 and whatnot. The idea for Harper is that he's been this guy for 15 years. This is a guy that isn't like, regardless, it's like Mitch said earlier. He's the tone setter because he's one of the top players in MLB, regardless of his age. Respect is respect. And but I understand he's not playing well. I also agree with not just Rob Thompson having missteps, but Dave Dombrowski hasn't really given Rob Thompson all the tools now, has he? I mean, Weston Wilson, what was it?
Cal Stevenson.
Cal Stevenson. Those guys don't scream major league ball players to me. I'm sorry. They just don't.
No.
And then you have guys that, we're waiting on, and I get why we're waiting on it, but like these are the reasons why I feel like you let someone like Cody Clemens walk out the door and he's doing well in Minnesota. You let a guy like Hoffman walk out the door and he's doing well in Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
There's a part of this where you can blame a lot of people, but sometimes you have to blame the person that makes the bigger decisions. And the bigger decisions are who actually winds up in those pinstripes, James. You said it could be a rough summer for those guys in pinstripes. Well, it may not have been or may not be if certain decisions were made by Dave Dombrowski, and therefore that trickle down effect could be that better decisions could be made by Rob Thompson.
Right.
It sounds like the Sixers letting the playing bad here, letting them go. Now they're playing great somewhere else. It seems like it's a Philly thing.
Yeah, pretty much.
And I mean, but here's the thing: it doesn't have to be, because like guys like Howie Roseman make these calculated decisions, and he doesn't let these talented players always go. Sweat's gonna go to Arizona. Is he gonna light the world on fire? Probably not. Milton Williams went to New England. Is he gonna light the world on fire? Probably not. CJ went to the Texans. He's not gonna. Is he gonna light the world on fire? Probably not. the idea that a general manager has the decision-making ability to put the best lineup at the disposal of the coach or the manager is their job. And so I kind of put this on Dave Dombrowski, if anything. You have to do better. You have to do better with maturing this team to the skill set that they rightfully deserve. I agree with Mark in the sense that this team is getting older. There's no question in that. Father Time is undefeated. However, you could still infuse talent with these skilled veterans. And I don't think anybody can really argue with that. Mark, I want to thank you first for coming on the show. It's been great talking with you and getting your insight about the Eagles and the draft picks and the Phillies. So I want to thank you for coming on. Please tell people where they can find you.
Will do. Thank you. And thank you again.
Yeah, he doesn't do social media.
Oh, okay.
Like,
Oh, I wish I was in your shoes, my friend.
Well, here's my thing is Mark, you will be on every once in a while you will be on This Week in Phillies baseball,
Phillies
right?
baseball. This week at Phillies baseball. Yeah.
Okay. So
Awesome.
check out Mark there. Mitch, where can people find you? The list of IMDb list of places where they can find Mitch Kofsky.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so you can find me here on the Hardcore Sports, Steampunk Entertainment. I can go on and on for hours, but yeah, I just love being on here, man. Talking Phillies, talking Eagles, hating on the Sixers. I just love it, man. Yeah, I can't wait to do this again.
Again,
Yeah,
like
it
I
was
said
fun.
last night, Mitch, you got the draft lottery coming up soon, man. You got to look forward to that. NBA draft
I am
lottery.
looking forward to it, but it's just like, what are we gonna do with it?
Wave the
Yeah.
flag for Cooper Flag. I'll take
Yeah.
a line
Flag.
from my old
No.
man,
Oh my
my buddy
God.
Kyle Quinn.
No, we're playing catch for the flag. We've been playing that since the beginning of the season. So,
Capture the flag.
What was like? What was it? Winless for Cooper? Like winless
that's
for
a good
Wiggins.
one. I never heard of that one.
Yeah.
Or
Well, that was
flag
Andy
or-
Gargano. That was Anthony Gargano
or
back in the
on the
winless
play.
for Wiggins. Yeah,
Jump-
exactly.
Flag on the play.
Jump through the hoops for Coop.
Yeah.
So,
That's a new
whatever
one.
it is.
That's actually a better one. That's a good line,
Yeah.
man.
So, for James, I want to thank you for manning the chat board and,
pleasure,
and
pal.
the comments. Being a great producer, even when I ambush you with commercial reads.
No, it's all good.
it's-
I just got to get back on them again.
My
That's the
bad.
most important.
No,
No,
but
you're
I
good.
want to thank everybody. No problem. No, but for everyone who checked in, everyone who watched us, everyone who will watch us, please like and subscribe to Hardcore Sports Network. Smash that like button. Check us out next Saturday. Also, check out our sister station over at Stream Punk Entertainment PA. And those guys over with Scott and all of them, they have you covered for a lot of different sports, including soccer and much more. But for James Scorzent, Mitch Kofsky, Mark, my name is Joe Marks. We are the Pattison Sports Show, and we are out. Let's go, Phils.
See y'all later.